Welcome to the Beauty Biz Show. I'm your host, Lori Crete, a career-loving esthetician and beauty entrepreneur on a mission to empower fellow estheticians. If you are a solo or small business owning esthetician and you enjoy this podcast and curious about how we can work together, visit beautybizclub.com for mentorship and essential business growth tools. If you're looking to boost your retail sales and elevate client care, check out my line of luxury spa wraps and headbands at spastar.net. Now, join me as I bring you inspirational messages from beauty industry experts and practical tips to help you achieve beauty biz success. Get ready for some serious beauty biz entertainment. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Beauty Biz Show. I'm your host, Lori Crete, and I'm really excited about today's guest. Her name is Isabel Vitale, and she is the CEO and co-founder of SIV Skincare. That's a lot of S's, almost a tongue twister. Welcome, Isabel.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
I'm really excited to have you here. And I've said this on the show before, but I like to come into the show with a natural curiosity. So I've designed questions for you, but I have not gone over much of your brand, and I'm super excited about that. I'll tell you how I found out about you. I was sitting in a room full of estheticians. I host esthetician masterminds twice a year, and your name came up 3 different times.
Really? Ooh,
yes.
That's so nice. I love that.
That made me curious because when an estheticians are sitting in a room giving you a brand a shout out, that's a big thing in this saturated market. So I can't wait to learn about your product.
Oh, that makes me so happy. The estheticians are really what built this brand. And so I feel that I owe them a debt of gratitude all the time, because that's truly how we've been growing so much, is really through word of mouth and them just rallying for the product. And for me, like, they're so sweet, and I do everything that I can to try and support them. So that makes me really happy.
Who's your co-founder?
So I actually have 2 co-founders. I have my one co-founder, her name is Morgan Gisto. And she's kind of the COO. So she runs a lot of like the back operations. So things with like inventory, warehousing, testing, like logistics, things like that. She's good at everything that I suck at, which is organization and like anything numbers wise. Like, she's incredible in the sense that like I could ask her for any obscure document or like notes on any meeting and she pulls it up in 30 seconds. So she's amazing, an absolute superhero. And then I also have our microbiologist, Krishnan. And he was integral in helping me start SIV. And so we can kind of go through my like founder story and how this all came to be. But Kieran is a research microbiologist. He's worldwide. He's super smart. And he's really the one that introduced me to the spores. And so now he's my co-founder in this and really takes lead on like, scientific things, different developments. He's also a great business strategist. Because, I'm a first-time brand owner. I'm 27. So, there's a lot to learn in this entrepreneurial kind of feat that we've taken on. And thank God for Kieran, because he's helped me dodge a lot of landmines.
Well, I want to know, I have so many questions. So first of all, how did you meet your co-founders?
Yeah. So I'll kind of take you to the beginning of how I started SIV, because I didn't know them beforehand. So my past, so I graduated in communications, so nothing science-based, nothing really skincare related. And I was trying to get into medical sales. Well, it's very hard to get into medical sales when you haven't taken a science class or biology class since like high school. So I'm looking through, job postings, and I see a post for a very popular skincare line that's like very like commercial, So I was like, okay, let me try this out. It was a sales job, and I ended up getting it. And I worked at this company's like pediatric sector. So like we were trying to talk to pediatrician outreach. So
for skincare, interesting.
Yeah.
Corrective skincare, I assume, if it's in the pediatrics world.
Yeah, it was supportive, mostly eczema focused.
Okay.
And so with that, I was talking to all these pediatricians and talking about eczema, and in general, pediatricians, they didn't know very much about the skin. So I was teaching them everything from like what a ceramide was to like, why the skin barrier is important, kind of pathology of certain conditions. And they were coming back to me as a skincare expert of like, okay, well, what else should I use? Or like the patient is presenting with this, like what should I do? And being the communication major, I'm like, I don't know, I'm just the rep. So I started doing a lot of research for them because I was like, I at least want to help them. Like I genuinely felt bad. And so that's how I came across the skin microbiome, is because in researching all of these inflammatory conditions, it just kept popping up over and over, especially with eczema, we see that Staph aureus really come about. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to Google products for the skin microbiome, and I'll just recommend those in conjunction with this other brand. Problem solved. Well, when I went to Google products for the skin microbiome, nothing came up. Like it was literally like an oil or like, some bullshit microbiome product. And so I was like, wow, nobody's got this figured out, even though the microbiome seems so important. Like, what's going on here? So I kind of let that like simmer in the back of my head. I was like, nah, I'm not going to do anything about this. Like, again, not my wheelhouse. And like, eh. So I'm kind of going on with my life, and I would listen to a lot of podcasts. So I was listening to a podcast. It was the Skinny Confidential, and Kieran was speaking on the podcast about these spores. And these spores were revolutionizing the gut space. They were, quorum sensing. They're dormant. They're super resilient. They seemed to solve a lot of the issues that were being presented with traditional like probiotic focused products, because there's a lot of issues with trying to formulate with a live strain, right? It's do
No, I'm making notes because I'm getting more questions to ask
okay.
you. This is very interesting.
Okay. Yeah, so they solved a lot of the issues that formulation with a live strain that can actually, do anything to the microbiome we're having. So I was like, huh, interesting. I wonder if these benefits would translate to the skin, if they can do all this in the gut. So I finished the podcast and I ended up DMing him just like on a whim, like, why not? Right. So I DM'd him. I was like, hey, I just heard you on this podcast. Have you tried the spores on the skin at all? Like, do you have any research, anything like that? So he is generous enough to answer. We have a phone call, and he's like, you know what? This all makes sense. He's like, the spores should work on the skin. He's like, from a microbiology standpoint, this does make sense. So you know what? Let me just send you some spores, and you can start formulating and see if you get anything that works. So I'm like, sure, why not? And at this point, I was kind of just like, if I get something, great, and if not, oh well. And so just from my, time at this other skincare company and just research from myself, honestly, I concocted this formula literally in my kitchen. Like I ordered a little scale from Amazon to measure out the bacillus. I got my little plastic pipettes. I'm like putting different like mixtures and tinctures in these little like vape juice bottles almost. And I came up with a texture that I really liked. And he aided me on, what type of, how much spore to put in each one. And then I had myself try it. I had really bad acne, like all over my cheeks and my chin and even my forehead, like all over my face, really. And then my friends had different issues. So I had one with like psoriasis, eczema, a couple others with acne. And so we all tried it and we all saw improvement. So I was like, whoa, I think we have something here. And so from that point on, I was updating Kieran this whole time, of course, like saying, look at this before and after and look at this one. And like, I think it's working. And so, yeah, long story short, that's how we met. And he's now a partner in the company. And the way that I met Morgan was through Kieran as well. So him and Morgan had kind of worked together on a previous company, and she was fantastic and brilliant. And, he brought her in for us to meet, and we ended up just hitting it off. And like, I love her. And yeah, that's how the team was made.
It's not all the time, actually, not very often at all, ever do I hear a story that truly feels like divine destiny, but this is weird.
Yeah, I know. You're telling me.
Puzzle that perfectly fit together and I've met some of my best guests and had some beautiful opportunities appear from DMing. And I think that is just the best part of social media. As annoying as it is, the whole DM thing, when it works out, which isn't very often, is amazing.
Absolutely.
I want you to take me back, like we're in science 101. So, and then we're going to move forward into the rest of the journey. But explain to me what a microbiome means when you say a test on the microbiome. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so the microbiome is a collection of bacteria, viruses, fungi, mites, yeast that live on the surface of your skin. So you really have one on all major organs. So you have your skin, you have an oral microbiome, you have a microbiome in your lungs, you have microbiome in your nose, you also have one in the gut, which most people are familiar with. And all of these microbiomes communicate with each other to essentially make up your body's immune system. So that's why they say so much of the immune system is housed in the gut.
Yeah.
For example, we talk about this gut-skin connection, right? So that refers to the connection between the skin microbiome and the gut microbiome. So what's happening in those instances is your skin is constantly sampling its environment. So it's looking at, is there a threat here? Is there something that I need to respond to? Am I balanced? Is there something overgrown or undergrown? Now, if it senses that there is some kind of threat or problem or correction that needs to be made, it sends those signals to the gut microbiome, which again, they're constantly communicating. And the gut microbiome then deploys an immune response. That deployment of the immune response then presents on your skin, in most cases, as some form of inflammation. So that's why we say, when your gut's not balanced, your skin can't be healthy, right? Because it's not deploying the correct immune response. It's not reading the signals from the skin correctly. But you also need that skin microbiome to be balanced, because if that's not balanced, your skin is going to start to respond to things in the environment that it really shouldn't need to respond to. It should know how to deal with a lot of this. But because the skin microbiome in so many cases is disrupted, we're seeing this kind of artificial triggering of the immune system. So we see all of this immune activity for essentially no reason. It's like, why are we getting this? And so that's really where SIV comes into play. Is it works to balance that skin microbiome, correct that deployment, and make sure that everything on the skin is functioning properly. The microbiome is kind of like the living layer of defense for your barrier, because we often think about the barrier as being this first line of defense, right? But what we don't talk about as much, and what I hope to change, is that the skin microbiome is a huge piece of how that barrier functions. The skin microbiome actually dictates much of how your barrier works. And it's the first line of defense even before your barrier.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So when you say that you were sent spores, tell me what that means. Like, do they come in a bag? Are they chilled on dry ice? Like, what does it even mean? This is kind of an all new concept to me. Somebody who has been touching faces. I'm still a working licensed esthetician as well, and working with doctors for a really long time. And this is all new to me. So, what does it mean when you are delivered spores, and how do they affect the skin, and how you use them in the products?
Yeah. So the spores came in a powder form, and so when you're using SIV is a serum. So the spores are inside this kind of oil base, basically. And the reason that we say to shake it up so much is because the spores, being like sediment almost, settle to the bottom. So if any of you guys, use it, you'll notice it really has to be shooken up. That's why. So the spores came in a powder base or powder formula, whatever. Put them in there. And then the way that they work on the skin. So you have two groups of microbes on the skin. You will have resident microbes, which are the ones that are always with you and your body makes naturally. So an example of these would be like Cutibacterium, Cornybacterium, Staphylococci. So like, for example, Staph epidermidis is a very beneficial bacteria that is a resident. Our bodies always make it. They always have it. Then you have other microbes called transient microbes. These microbes are picked up from the environment, people, places, products, clothing, things that you're coming in contact with that our bodies don't naturally make. The spores are transients. So our bodies don't make them naturally, but when they get on the skin, they are able to kind of look at the environment of the resident microbes to say, all right, what's going on in this resident population? Is there something overgrown? Is there something undergrown? They take in that information, and then they use a process called quorum sensing. So quorum sensing is communication between bacterial cells. So your cells are always doing this. But when the ecosystem is out of balance, or the microbiome is out of balance, those two are, in this case, kind of interchangeable, ecosystem and microbiome. When that's out of balance, the spores will be able to basically see, okay, this is overgrown. So let's then facilitate another strain to bring it down as competition. So the spores act as a conductor of that ecosystem. And it's all about competition. So when you strip your skin, or when you have, not enough diversity in that ecosystem, certain things can be allowed to overgrow. Once those are overgrown, the microbes around it are like, oh, there's a threat here, right? Even if it's a good microbe, too much of a good thing is still bad.
Yeah,
And
it's like
so,
gold being created from water, so to speak.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And so your microbes around that overgrown microbe will sense a threat there. They'll send those signals to the immune system, to the gut, to say, all right, we have a problem. We need to bring this down. The spore is kind of able to intercept that and say, oh, well, this is overgrown. Why don't we just facilitate a couple competitors over here and bring that down? And so it's really acting as that kind of balancing mechanism. That's why we call this the balancing serum, right? The important thing to know, and the reason why I went through resident versus transient microbes, is it's important that it's a transient. Because if you're adding a resident microbe to the skin, which a lot of times like oral probiotics will try and do this, they'll try and add a beneficial resident. If you're not missing that strain, or let's say that beneficial strain is already overgrown and then you add more of it, your skin already has the proper resources and everything to be able to feed that, and it can become even more overgrown. So you really don't want to add resident strains into an ecosystem because it can affect the ecosystem. But when you're adding a transient that quorum senses, that's when you can actually balance something.
Because when you first said spores, I have this image in my mind of like a Pac-Man eating everything, but that's not it at all. It's like a balancing act that happens.
It's kind of like the conductor of an orchestra, telling
Okay.
them like, okay, come up here and come down here, and changing it that way.
Okay, that's wild. I want to know tell me your very best success story to date with using this, like something that touched your heart and I'm going to work all night long if I have to, because this is what I'm meant to do to help people.
Yeah. Honestly, I get success stories that are incredible almost every day. That is my favorite part of this. Like, that's why I believe that this is a true blessing and this was meant to be, because I'm not kidding you. The amount of just amazing before and afters that we get, none of those are from me. Like, none of those are brand sponsored or anything like that. It's truly organically estheticians being like, look at what Ziv was able to do. I have three big ones that come to mind. So one of them, anything that has to do with babies, this is fantastic for babies. And this has been something so near and dear to my heart because I started in the pediatric sector. I saw what they had to go through, and I just feel horrible for the babies when they have this issue. I feel horrible for the parents when their babies are suffering like this. And, you just want to help your kid feel better. And there's not a lot that you can really put on their skin. You don't really want to use a cortisone on them or something stripping or harsh. Their skin is so delicate. It's 30% thinner than, regular adult skin. So anything that has to do with a baby, I'm like, love it. There was one case, he was a pediatric client. He had horrible psoriasis, like all over his cheeks, all over his nose, he was just scratching and itching and bleeding, and it was horrible. And the parents had tried everything, right? And so my esthetician, or this woman's esthetician, was like, you know what? Why don't you try SIV on him? Like, just see if this will help. And within 2 weeks, he was 90% better. Like, his skin, it was still a little red, but the patchiness was gone. The bleeding was gone. He wasn't itching anymore. And I was just blown away. And his mom emailed me like, she's like, I can't believe that this worked. Like, thank God for you. Like, thank you so much for creating this. And it's such a crazy experience for me because going back to how I started this, like, I didn't even know if it was going to work, like, to be totally honest, nobody had done this before. And I was like, in the back of my head, I'm like, well, probably for a reason, but it was such an amazing experience, like brought tears to my eyes. Cause I was like, I'm just so happy that they found an answer, that they were looking for. And it's not a quick fix either. Like, it's actually something that's good for the skin, that's going to change that composition of microbes for the better overall. Like, this is not just something that like, oh no, if I stop using, then it's going to just come roaring back. It's actually going to benefit the skin in the long run too.
read any, and I know we're not doctors and we can't diagnose anything, but curiosity, like you just said, I didn't know if this was going to make sense. I find that curiosity can cure,
Mhm.
honestly. So
Yeah.
have you read any uh, white papers, any studies from medical universities or anything that talks about why we get psoriasis and eczema, like anything that's made sense to you being on the other side of it, somebody who's creating something to help?
Yes. So especially with eczema, psoriasis, I'm not as versed in, but eczema does actually stem from a filaggrin gene mutation. So filaggrin is basically what you have here is, when you're thinking about the skin barrier, you have the building blocks, right? So the skin cells and then that lipid matrix that's mostly made of ceramides, cholesterol, fatty acids. So when we look at the skin barrier of somebody with eczema, we see two major things. We see a huge lack of ceramides. So the barrier is compromised in that way, right? Where water can leak out. You see a lot of cracking then, dryness, where bacteria can then come in. And we also see this lack of filaggrin in the actual skin cell. So both your lipids and your skin cell are compromised. And filaggrin is the major building block of a skin cell. It creates the cornified envelope on the outside of the skin cell. So that's compromised. So your skin cell, which should be solid, almost looks kind of pixelated when it has a lack of filaggrin. So your barrier overall is extremely compromised. Now, one of the reasons that that's the case is because when you look then at the skin microbiome of somebody with eczema, you see a huge overgrowth of Staph aureus. Staph aureus uses these two compounds, ceramide and filaggrin, as food. So when you have this overproduction of Staph aureus in the skin microbiome, they erode the skin barrier through those two compounds. That's why you see a lack of those in the barrier. Now, the reason that you have so much Staph aureus on the skin in these cases is because of this gene mutation that you have, which is this filaggrin gene mutation, which orients the environment on the skin to proliferate its own Staph aureus. So if you're a regular person that doesn't have this mutation, if you come in contact with Staph aureus, you're not going to automatically get eczema. You might get some contact dermatitis, itchiness, whatever, but it's not going to be from childhood. It's not going to be persistent, and it's not going to be something that, erodes the barrier so aggressively, because your natural ecosystem should be able to take care of that. But when you have this gene mutation, your body actually produces its own Staph aureus, and that's why you see such a hard time getting rid of this. It's because you're making it yourself, basically, and then it's eroding that skin barrier over and over.
So I have a lot of newer estheticians that listen to this podcast, and being an esthetician myself for 25 years, I think the word ceramide has just recently come forward, I would say.
Yeah.
So will you explain what a ceramide is and how they can benefit in skincare?
Yeah. So a ceramide, it's a fatty, like waxy kind of compound, and it holds your skin cells together. So it's 50% of that lipid matrix, that mortar of the brick and mortar structure. And the reason they're so beneficial is when you lack them, what will essentially happen is your skin barrier kind of falls apart. So you see lots of things coming in and other things leaking out. That's my understanding of it. Do you have a better, more in-depth description?
Like I almost like if you're lack of, or you can use them to avoid cellular death. In a way, like almost like hydration is how
Mhm.
I've understood using them. And it's
So,
really beneficial for people who are sensitive, like to hyaluronic acids or that type of hydrating support.
so something that I would think about, like with a ceramide, the reason that they're saying they're hydrating is actually because they're repairing the barrier. Um, I don't know if the compound itself is actually hydrating. Does that make sense? So by
Yeah.
adding that to the barrier, your body's just able to keep water in better, because that's the main issue with the ceramide, is that it's leaking out all of that stuff and you don't have it. And so then when you're able to actually seal that in, your skin is going to be automatically more hydrating. Therefore, those products can make that hydrating claim.
There's definitely a movement happening in skincare, and I can tell you it's a good movement. It's more of a let's repair the barrier, because
Mhm.
when I first got into skincare, I would have people come in from doctors' offices and really other spas, and I would wash their face and it would bleed. There's been so much aggressive like depletion on our
Mhm.
barrier. I'm so glad it's taking a turn towards let's repair it and make the
Mhm.
skin super healthy, and that'll fix a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And I have this one client. He's a 70-year-old retired ESPN fisherman. He had tried every doctor and everything topically, internally, but I would wash his face and it would literally bleed. And I go, let's just fix the barrier.
Mm-hmm.
2 products
Yeah.
I used. And he kept coming back going, I can't believe this. I can't believe it. I've tried everything. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad we're taking this turn towards being reparative.
Yeah.
I want to know a little bit about, because it is, well, you were going to say something, and then we're going to take a turn into the business side of it.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, one last note on that is, one of the reasons why, because people will say that SIV is very hydrating too. Well, there's nothing necessarily in there that's aimed towards hydration. But one of the main things that we're really aiming to solve for is something that we've termed leaky skin. So just like leaky gut, right? When your gut is dysbiotic, it erodes that gut lining, things leak out. Same thing's true for the skin. So what I often talk about and what estheticians will see is you add SIV into the client's existing routine. And maybe this is a client that has tried everything and it's like, why am I not getting the results that I would expect with this routine? Or why is this not working? Well, when that microbiome on the skin becomes dysbiotic, it also erodes the barrier. And so no matter what you're doing to that client as far as routine goes, if you're working on the barrier but not addressing that microbiome, all of that work that you're doing is essentially being acted against by the microbes on the skin. Does that make sense? And so when you don't balance, or when you balance that out, now all of your barrier focused products can actually work as intended instead of having to work double time trying to repair this barrier that the microbiome is just eroding over and over again.
So that was one of my questions that you're bringing me back to. When I listen, there's a lot going on up here. I'm like,
Yes.
oh wait, I wanted to ask. So would you say that SIV is a reparative product? Like, I just had a friend who got her décolleté destroyed from a laser tech that didn't know what they were doing. Have you tried it with anything like that, like reparative type on the skin effects?
Absolutely, yes. Especially in the cases of like a wound or something like that, because all of that is so involved with the immune system, right? The immune system is being deployed to try and repair that.
Yeah.
So the more that you can help that immune system function properly, the better your skin is going to heal. So yes, absolutely. The only thing we say, like with an open wound, you want to put the serum around the open wound, and then those spores will kind of go where they need to go, because all of those spores are just going to interact anywhere that they need to go, where you don't want to put it directly on there.
Okay. And then what is the texture of it? Is it slippery? Is it watery? I know you said you had to shake it because the spores are powder form, but what is the consistency of it?
So I would describe it as like velvety almost. So it's not sticky at all, and it's not oily. I often recommend to do it on slightly damp skin, because I feel like that just helps it absorb better. And this is always going to be the first step in the routine, even before your water-based serum. So this is really almost like a velvety, thin, serum-y texture. The texture is kind of unique. I'll send you a bottle. I would be curious for you to try it and let me know.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to try it. And then I live in Palm Desert. Everybody has depleted skin here. Everybody. So
Yeah.
I think, and my significant other has eczema. He has arthritis. So I think that it shows up on your skin. This would be super helpful, because when he eats differently and really clean, it does. So it all makes sense how your product works. Like we've been hearing so much about with the brain belly connection. If somebody were using it in their skincare routine, you said it can be used with the other products that they're, currently in their regimen. How would you use it? Wash your face and that goes on first, closest to the skin. Is that how you recommend using it?
Yep. Unless they're using a toner, they can tone. And then while the skin's still slightly damp from that, apply a couple drops to your hands, rub it together, even allow some of the serum to absorb, and then pat that onto the skin. Because the main objective of this product is not to coat your skin in the product. A lot of times when we are using products, it's kind of like, get that product really on the skin. You don't want it to absorb in the hands. This is just get the spores in contact with the skin. And that alone will have the benefit that you're looking for.
Okay. Storms are worker bees. So it's a worker bee.
Yes, it is.
I want to talk a little bit about business, and then I want to go into our show notes for the esthetician audience and ask you some questions about that topic as well. So I'm just, this is a Beauty Biz show, and I feel like so many beauty entrepreneurs are trained in a skill set, but not so much the business part of it. And I think we learn from people like you that are figuring it out, and seemingly you're doing it rather well for being thrown into an area that you didn't know a whole lot about, the world of skincare. So what core values drive SIV Skincare? And how do they show up in your product and your practice?
Yeah. So my biggest thing is supporting the estheticians. Estheticians put us on the map, and they can take us out. Like that's, and I want to honor them for that, though, because I think so many brands, and I've heard this from a number of estheticians, will use estheticians as kind of their entrance into the market and then essentially shit on them and be like, okay, well, we're going to go on Amazon and we're going to yeah, exactly. So my key focus in every decision that I make is like, how are the estheticians going to feel about this? I've been approached by many big box retailers, and I tell them no, because I'm like, the estheticians don't want to see their professional grade product at the store. Like that's just not something that they want to see. And I get it. And so preserving that aspect and keeping them top of mind for everything that we do, offering them the best retail price, right? We raised our direct to consumer retail price on our website so estheticians can still make a 50% margin and sell it for lower than what we sell it for. Because I want the client to be able to feel comfortable purchasing it through them instead of saying like, oh, let me research it and then buy it online from us. They're not going to do that because they're going to pay $25 more than, what they would get it for there. So that for me, everything that I do, I think about how is an esthetician going to, respond to this, or are they going to like that?
It's interesting because I have a product that I wholesale to estheticians. It's a resort clothing line, like a spa wrap.
Oh, cool.
That's a hard decision to make as a business owner, that I'm going to up direct consumer so I can support a wholesale brand.
Yeah.
And most people don't even consider or realize that. So I want to acknowledge it and say, we appreciate that as estheticians.
Yeah.
100%.
No, for sure. I mean, and the market is saturated. Like I get it. The consumer is looking for the cheapest, person to get it through. And I totally get that. And so that's why even, the sales that we do or whatever, like we make sure the esthetician always has the upper hand in that, because we want to make sure that you guys are supported. And again, I initially tried to launch this D2C, like in the very, very early stages. We need you guys. Like you guys are the ones who bridge that gap to the consumer. The consumer doesn't know what they need, like you guys are the ones who need to tell them this product is important. This is why, you have the hardest job of everybody is, talking to them about it and making it compelling, even when the science is a little, more than what the consumer might want to hear. But we need you guys. And so, yeah, I want to make sure that you guys want to honor us. And, my newsletters that I send out, the reposts that I do, it's all to give you guys exposure. I want you guys to think of us as like a team member, not just like a brand that's there to collect your money.
Here's how I feel about it as an esthetician who has used a multitude of skincare brands in my practice. I feel like most skincare brands want to date us, but not marry us. You feel like you're really committed to the marriage part of it.
Yes, I am. And what I love too is like, and this is kind of fun for me just because like, I'm a woman, I'm young, and like a lot of our estheticians are my age and women. Like I've actually become pretty close friends with a lot of the estheticians that I've met through SIV. And like, for this most recent product repackaging launch that we did, like I used one of our estheticians' husbands for the photography. Like, like I think of it as like an ecosystem and a network. And I think, it's awesome.
A team. And you know what? Your packaging is beautiful. Just simplistic, but got a little bit of I don't want to say bling, but it would stand off a shelf I would say simplistically chic. That's the look and feel of it.
I love that. That's what we're going for.
We'll return to the episode after a quick message from our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by Spa Star Luxury Wraps and Headbands. Are you looking to add a little luxury to your beauty biz? Spa Star Wraps and Headbands are an amazing way to elevate the client experience and boost your retail sales. Here are the top 3 reasons Spa Star Wraps are estheticians' spa wear of choice. Number one is the fit. Spa Star wraps are size inclusive with a unique design that accommodates sizes 0 to 18. The feel. There is nothing else like this on the market. Just imagine if bamboo and silk had a very low maintenance baby. Buttery soft and unbelievably easy to care for. The third reason is functionality. The wraps are lightweight, water wicking, saving lots of space and limited treatment room storage, and reducing laundry loads with a drying time of approximately under 6 minutes. Use them in your treatments and chances are clients will want to take one home, providing a profitable boost in retail sales. Visit spastar.net for more details and be sure to check out the footer of the website at spastar.net for wholesale applications. I'm curious, my co-host on this show who does a lot of them with me is your age. And I learned so much from you guys because you get to a certain age and you get stuck in your ways. And when you're in your mid to, 25, 26, 27, I think you're a little more brave and willing to try things. So I appreciate that. What has been your biggest challenge in running a business? Like, what did you not expect from transitioning from being a sales rep to running the show as an entrepreneur? What was your biggest, oh my gosh, this is crazy?
Well, there's a lot. And this is where Kieran comes in. Because again, he saved me from making a lot of like uh-ohs or like spending money that just did not need to be spent. One of the biggest things that I've learned is like exposure or like, shout outs in magazines or sponsoring certain events. Like that does not translate to sales. Like what you think you want is not actually what you need, like for me, I was like, oh my God, it'd be so cool if we like, went in Cosmopolitan magazine or if we were in Vogue or whatever. But the reality of that is like, yeah, it's cool to talk about. It's cool to post on Instagram, but that actually doesn't drive any sales. And so there's been a few times where I would have wanted to maybe sponsor an event of some sort that would give it like high visibility. But and we actually did try one and I was wrong. Because, that's one of Kieran's superpowers is, he'll let you make the mistakes without it being completely detrimental, but enough to teach you a lesson where it's like, this is not what really drives sales. It's on the ground, doing the hard work, emailing every single day, talking to the customer, really understanding what they want instead of the kind of glamorous, like, oh, like we sponsored this or we were mentioned here. It's like, yeah, all that stuff is fluff and it's cool, but that is not the foundation of a business.
I run 4 companies, and just to make you feel human and normal, we all make that mistake every single time. And I make it with every company I start. When I first was in LA, I had a celebrity clientele and I thought it would be so amazing to go in a gift bag. I don't remember if it was the Grammys or the Emmys.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
Last year with my spa wraps, I sent one to every editor through a PR agency and it's expensive. And guess what ROI I get on it? Basically 0. So we all live and learn the hard way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The things that you think will move the needle, they don't move it.
For me, people think I'm old school and I teach estheticians this. One of my other businesses is I have a consulting, like a strategy consulting business for estheticians where I teach them how to run a business. And I will go back to email marketing every single day, grow your list and market with email. I think it's your retirement plan.
Yes, and provide value in your emails. Yeah. That's another thing is like when I'm, constructing my emails for SIV, because I'm so blessed and I do have so many amazing before and afters that I can showcase, I do a new before and after that was submitted every single day. And I talk about like, how did they use it? What was the protocol? Why does this work? Like, I'm not just sitting there like, oh my God, like, look at what SIV did. Another SIV slay. Like,
or buy this.
Exactly.
Here's how we're helping people.
Right. Yeah. Provide actual, value there and people will actually open the emails.
You said you had problematic skin. And I don't think people understand what a blow it is to your self-esteem if you have anything showing up on your skin.
True. It's so true. Like you don't even want to look people in the eyes because you're afraid that like they're going to get too much FaceTime. It's like, it sucks. And I'm glad that I had that because I can then empathize with the customers that we're helping. And, compared to some of the stuff I've seen, it's like, man, like it wasn't even bad, but it just feels terrible. Like that feeling doesn't go away no matter what the severity is. Like, it's really put into perspective. Like, your worst problem is still your worst problem. Your worst skin is still your worst skin.
Yeah. And we are our own worst critics. So
for
we
sure.
feel worse than somebody looking at you.
Mm-hmm. But one thing I have learned from being in the industry is even the esthetician that has the most skin knowledge that can clear every single person's skin that walks through their door will still have skin issues or can still have skin issues. That doesn't mean that you're, a lesser esthetician. That doesn't mean anything. Like what I try and tell people, and even myself, because I'll still get breakouts here and there, everyone's human. And what you have to remember is your skin is an organ. Even athletes have heart issues. Even athletes have lung issues. Like you can't control the heartbeat that you have. You can't control what your skin does. Like it is still at the end of the day an organ, and you have to treat it as such. Like there's, you can help it, you can do the best for it, but if it's going to freak out, sometimes it's going to freak out, and you just kind of have to try and minimize whatever that is. So, I think a lot of estheticians feel guilt if they start breaking out or they get imposter syndrome, and they can look at a book of 100 clients that they've helped to transform their skin and then look in the mirror and be like, I'm not good. And that's not true.
Yeah.
So,
and a lot of estheticians come into the industry because they have problematic skin and they want to learn.
100%.
I will tell you, my clients would never get so excited when they got to see me with a pimple. Like they would walk in and go, "Oh my God, you're human!" Like it was so
yeah.
They would walk in.
Yeah. No, that's not good.
And you're right. I'm 56 years old, and yesterday I woke up with a pimple.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
not wrinkles and pimples at the same time. This doesn't fair, but our bodies are going to do what our bodies are going to do.
The dynamic duo, yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if, because your product is really helping to repair the skin, if it does reverse some signs of aging.
So it actually does. We've done Visia scans over the course of 30 days. So, the esthetician.
30 days, and you're seeing improvement in aging?
Yeah, from the Visia scan, yes. They so these were two estheticians that did it. And I was like, hey, you guys have Visia machines. Like, why don't we just see what we can see with SIV? So they're on their regular routine. Again, it's not like they were only using SIV, but they knew what their skin data was, before they implemented SIV and then after. So they implemented SIV 30 days later. Each of them saw a 2 to 3 year reduction in the true skin age of their skin over 30 days. So what was amazing to me about that was there's nothing in SIV that's actually rejuvenating the skin. Like this is literally all shifting of the microbiome. It's not accelerating skin cell turnover. It's not affecting the skin cells directly. It's coming from this ability to balance that microbiome, and then all of a sudden everything else works better. And that's something that I just think is so important, is that those two go hand in hand. Like right now we're solving half the issue with the skin barrier. We're still missing that other half of the skin microbiome. And that's where SIV is so important. Like every single person should be on this.
It makes sense. And it also, now that you're explaining stuff to me, makes sense of how it can work quickly. Because if I go out tonight and I drink champagne and eat pizza, I wake up tomorrow morning looking older.
Right.
I've disrupted something. So if you're removing the disruption, then it does work pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole point is resilience, right? Nobody wants to live in like a perfect little world where they can't drink champagne and eat pizza. Like nobody wants that.
I refuse
what you want is to be able to do that and not see such an effect,
I want to know now how you found the world of estheticians, because one of the girls that was here in Palm Desert for the meeting met you at the Las Vegas show. So you're doing trade shows.
Yeah. Yes.
And how did you find your way into, okay, this is a key to unlock some success for me, is the world of estheticians?
Yeah. So like I said, I tried to do direct to consumer at like a farmer's market in Michigan. So I'm like talking to them about the microbiome. Like I'm sitting there alone. They probably feel bad for me. They come up and they're like, oh, like, what is this, honey? And I'm like, oh my God, it's like microbiome, blah, blah, blah. And like, you can just see like the glaze happen immediately. They regret coming over. They're like, okay, like I'm going to go look at the wind chimes. So I was like, well, okay. D2C maybe is not the move right now. And so, we were strategizing as a team, and I think it was probably Kieran who was like, why don't you like try and see if some estheticians would be interested in it. Because we also tried the doctor route. Doctors are a little slower to, bring things on. They like their prescriptions, most of them, obviously not all of them. But yeah, I was like poaching kind of people on Instagram, like looking up estheticians on Instagram and just kind of shooting off like DMs to them. And they seemed pretty receptive. And so I was just kind of talking them through it, what it was and why I think it was important. And it started to kind of catch on, like you saw a couple of them bring it on and test it. And of course, like at first, it was super quiet. No one posted about it. Everyone was very like, timid to see, what is this microbiome thing? It's got an interesting smell to it because it's bacteria. Like, kudos to those estheticians for really paving the way and, really kind of believing in that. One of the estheticians in the very beginning that brought it on, that really kind of introduced us to the market, was Jen Mills. Her thing is Cult Skin by Jen. Ritual Body Studio was her previous handle. She has been microbiome focused from the beginning of time. And when she caught wind of this, she's in New Orleans, Louisiana. When she caught wind of this, she contacted us and was like, I need to get my hands on this. So sent it to her. She absolutely loved it. She has gotten like the best results with it ever. She's brilliant. And she had a lot of followers. Like a lot of estheticians trusted her. And so when they saw that she brought it on, they were like, wait, what is this? Like, what is she using? What is this witchcraft? And so that really got the ball rolling. Like I'll always say, like Jen really put us on the map, and really gave us that credibility and trust that we needed to then breach, all of them.
I do say that the evolution of the esthetician world went from telegram, telephone to teleesthetician.
Mm-hmm.
We were in a small dark room. When we were outside talking to other estheticians, the word travels fast about something good, for sure.
Absolutely. And what I can't believe is how like being an esthetician now is like a huge thing. Like before it was like, I never heard that word. And now there's so many. Like being an esthetician is such like a huge industry. Like, I don't know, it's crazy.
And you know what, my mission since when I became an esthetician, I lived in LA, a lot of fancy friends. I had been a flight attendant for a long time until September 11th. I made a career change and people go, well, what are you doing now, Laura? I go, I'm an esthetician. They go, oh my gosh, what hospital do you work at? They thought somehow in like a year I became an anesthesiologist.
Yeah, that's right. Like, no one knew what it was. It was like such a niche thing. And now all of a sudden it's like everyone's got an esthetician, like.
I think that more people have an esthetician's phone number on speed dial than they do their own general practitioner doctor, right?
Like, honestly, and I can see why though, because talking to you guys, like I said, I used to talk to pediatricians and now I talk to estheticians all day. You guys are more informed on the whole body. You guys ask the most in-depth questions. You understand the importance of the microbiome. Like this is something that I was never asked working with actual doctors.
Well, we're touching the skin, and Dr. Sonia Batra, I did an infomercial with her. She's on the show, The Doctor. She's an Oxford educated dermatologist. And she said, I get the best referrals from estheticians because you guys spend way more time with a client than I do. And looking at their skin closer than I get to every month.
Yeah. And you guys are educated and you're passionate and you are reaching more and more into holistic overall care of somebody, which I think is extremely important. I see the industry trending that way, where you guys will maybe end up being even like a naturopath in a way, like where, you're incorporating this kind of whole body regimen. We also have an oral supplement, that probiotic, and like, that's been doing really well. And it's because of the, connection to the whole body. Like you can't have healthy skin if your body inside is destroyed.
It's interesting, and I don't talk about this a whole lot, but I've been doing it for so long that I don't want to say diagnosed, but I've pointed my client in a very aggressive, strong direction: 2 thyroid cancers and 2 breast cancers and multiple skin cancers. Like just by saying, hey, you need to go somewhere and have somebody look at this.
Yeah. So, yeah. You guys are really becoming like health experts in a way. And I respect that immensely because people think of the skin as being vain or, something that is just to do with looks. Your skin is your largest organ. It affects your entire body. And, there's a study, I talk about it a lot. It's called the Baltimore Longitudinal Study of Aging. And what this study essentially did was it followed a group of participants over the course of 60 years, let's say. And it looked at how they aged, like what were the markers of health as they aged. And what they found was the health of the skin actually indicated whether or not, so it was an independent indicator of whether or not they would develop some kind of chronic condition later in life. So the skin not only reflects what's going on the inside, but it can actually drive what can go on the inside, because they found specific inflammatory markers found in the skin in other organs, like the liver and things like that. Like it was linked to cardiovascular issues, blood issues. They're even saying that Alzheimer's is linked to a fungus around the nose, and you're breathing that in and it's affecting your brain. So the skin is more than just something that can look good or bad. It is truly affecting how your body overall functions.
I got the chills when you said that, because sometimes I think I'm a weirdo. I can look at somebody and I'll say to my significant other, Jay, we've been together 17 years. I never know what to call him because we never got married, but he is the person I will grow old with.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look at him and I'll go, that person is sick.
Mm-hmm.
Like sick inside. And he said, how do you know that? Because he has a degree in hospital management, pharmaceutical sales rep for a very long time. Now he's a nutritionist. And he'll go, how do you know that? I go, I don't know. I just see it in their skin.
Yeah.
See it in their skin.
You can see it in the skin. The skin reflects and also drives a lot of that. So, estheticians have an important job in keeping that functioning and healthy. And like you said, kind of looking out and saying like, hey, this isn't normal. You need to go see someone.
I also like to do my intake that way. When my client goes, oh, my skin has just been looking horrible lately. I go, well, let's identify the cause.
Yeah.
Like, are you taking any new medicines? It's usually not what they're using topically that's making their skin look horrible, unless it's something too aggressive for their skin type. So
yeah. And that's why we launched the probiotic too, because a lot of your health starts in the gut. And so I felt it wouldn't have been truly authentic for us to be focusing on the microbiome without a really great probiotic. And like I was saying earlier, that signaling between the gut and the skin, if the gut's not balanced, that signaling and that immune deployment isn't going to be correct either.
Do you know I created a probiotic probably 15 years ago, before my time? And we literally went to manufacturing with Jay and I did it. And nobody got the concept of it. We ended up just like doing a hardcore sale at the end of it, but it was called Karmic Justice. And it was about like bringing into your life, bringing something in to create a beautiful result.
Yeah.
But it was long before anyone understood, or they were talking about the brain belly connection. But yeah, we did that forever ago. And I go, this is not for me. It was a hardcore sales thing. Talk about
business. Ahead of your time. But yeah, it is. It takes a lot of footwork. I get it.
How long have you had that? So what do you have now? You have the skincare serum, you have the probiotic.
That's it. Those two.
Do you have anything in the future that you're thinking, oh, this would be another perfect fit?
I do. We are in talks with one of our best estheticians to develop something else. Can't say yet, but yeah, I'm excited for it.
Oh, now I'm curious.
Yeah.
Is it a product? Is it equipment? Is it?
So one of them is a product. The other thing that we are working on developing is a skin microbiome test. So you can swab your skin, you'll send it in, and then we'll give you a full panel of like, what's going on, why you might be having certain issues. I'm hoping to, more than anything, collect like a sort of database to be able to kind of identify trends. So for example, with perioral dermatitis, that's been extremely tricky in so many people. And I've done research on it. Like I can't find anything. Like there's theories and there's certain things, but like perioral dermatitis is so individualized to each person.
I had it twice in my life.
And it's
bad.
like, wow.
Nothing fixes it except for oral antibiotics. And the weird thing is, I can tell you this, if you want to collect some data, both times, one was right before my final exams in college. It was stress both times in my life.
Yep.
But you can't fix it even when you feel like your stress is gone.
Right. I know it's super tricky. And what works for one person usually doesn't work for another person. It's super individualized, and SIV thankfully has been incredible for it, but there's still some tough cases that it's like, okay, this isn't really helping or moving the needle. So in those cases, I would really like to see, okay, what is driving this? And maybe in all of those tough cases, there's a fluent, see through a through line where we can say, okay, this bacteria is in all of these. So this must be one of the common drivers of that.
What's interesting is I was just doing a tiny bit to see what estheticians were carrying your line this morning. And one of the photos I saw was, I go, oh, that's perioral dermatitis. She didn't say it on her website. And I go, and SIV looks like it fixed it quickly because it is so hard. My client just came in recently and she had it for probably 8 months, perioral, and nothing worked. She went on antibiotics. We were giving her just calming facials. And I told her, I've never been able to fix it. Honestly, it's usually oral. But she called me a few weeks ago and she said, do you want to hear something funny? I was drinking a lot of those flavored sparkling waters. She goes, I would drink them all day long. And somebody else told her, cut back on those. She said, and within a week, gone, her perioral dermatitis.
Yeah, because the proximity to the mouth. So one of my hypotheses is that, so the oral microbiome and the gut microbiome are very closely connected, right? So one of my things that I'll often think about is like, if you have dysbiosis in the gut, that shows up in the mouth, which will show up in the area around the mouth, right? And so I bet that this is very heavily bacterially driven, but a lot of it from gut and oral dysbiosis. That's why like switching the toothpaste is important, or, switching the diet.
Because they did say it was attached to fluoride for a while. And even when people would remove fluoride.
In some cases it probably was, but that's definitely not everybody.
Yeah.
But what it could be is, the extinction of certain microbes that then allow another microbe to overgrow, which will break out the skin around the mouth.
And it could be, do you think like using aggressive alcohol-based mouthwash even could be depleting things to cause?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I hear that. The oral microbiome is very important too, which we don't treat that very well.
I hope you're coming up with a really good mouthwash.
What is it? I'll come up with a good mouthwash.
Yeah, put that on your to-do list for someday.
It's something that we have thought about. So yeah, someone asked me if they could mouthwash with SIV. Yeah.
Has anyone tried it?
I think they probably have. Honestly, you could probably do like a couple drops in water and swish around and spit it out. There's nothing in there that's going to hurt you,
Or even brush your teeth with it.
I don't know if I do that.
I'll try anything to fix a skin condition. I guess I have a few more questions for you here, and we've kind of covered this, but maybe there's one thing, since you have become close to a lot of estheticians and you are sounding boards for each other's work lives. What do you wish more estheticians understood about the power of choosing the right skincare line?
Yeah. There's so much out there, and there's a lot of good, like amazing products out there.
Yeah.
I think, expensive doesn't always mean better, for sure. And I think the partnership between the brand and the esthetician is something that should be considered. They usually have a pretty good intuition on that kind of stuff, though. If they don't feel they're being treated right by a brand or something, they're pretty keen to say, there's probably something better out there or a swap that they can make. But yeah, I personally don't like a lot of harsh actives in skincare daily. I had acne, like I said, and I used a lot of actives, and my skin is the best now that it's ever been, and I use no actives. So not to say that that's something for everyone, but I do think that maybe taking a step back, bringing the client down to basics, is beneficial, just to see like where the skin lands naturally. I don't know if that's answering the question, but it's just what came to mind.
But I think it's another shift that's taking place in the industry. I have over 200 estheticians in my online consulting business. And I just did a poll recently, enzymes or peels, and 87% of estheticians are using enzymes versus peels now. So it is taking, I think, a less aggressive approach.
Yeah. And I think, when you're looking at it from the standpoint of the microbiome too, exfoliants, your skin naturally exfoliates, right? Every 30 days, or it should. every time we lose skin cells, we lose microbes. Now, the body is good at reproducing skin cells, populating them fast. But when you accelerate that skin cell turnover, even though the body knows how to repopulate those skin cells, the microbiome is still shedding, but it's not repopulating as fast. And so that's partially why we're seeing this stripping of the skin barrier, because we don't have enough microbes there because of that exfoliation over and over. And so that's why I think taking a little bit of a break and just seeing like where the skin is important, especially for a client that's been persistent in breaking out or having issues, and just to see like what's going on when we stop all of this, and then you can kind of reassess.
Renee Rouleau, do you know? She's an esthetician.
Mm-hmm.
She has a skincare line. I think it's one of her latest products is called Rest Day, and it's a mask.
Yeah.
And every time I put it on, it feels so good because I'm not layering stuff. And then the next day, my skin is like, oh, thank you. You've got a great J-Lo glow today.
Yeah.
So we should be taking breaks, I think, almost like when you use a different shampoo, your hair looks better when you get a little break.
Or even like with working out, if you like hammer those muscles all the time, every single day, like you need rest days.
Yeah, totally. So speaking of rest days, we're going to wrap it up. But, I said to you in the beginning, and I say this to all my guests, I want to make it feel like we're two beauty biz people sitting down, having a coffee, chatting, not salesy. And I think we pulled that off perfectly. So much so, I never even asked you to share how people could find you. So your website and your Instagram account or wherever you are on social media.
Yeah. So the website's sivcare.com. And then our Instagram is @sivcare. And then we also have a YouTube channel where I've interviewed a bunch of different estheticians. We go over their case studies and they just kind of tell us like how they did it. So if there's a before and after that resonates with you, check it out and see how they achieved that. Of course, they're all using Siv. But yeah, those are the main plugs. SIVcare on Instagram. I think I already said that, but just in case.
And your YouTube channel, just go on and look for SIV Skincare.
Yeah.
And it's SIV, SIV.
Mm-hmm.
SIV. Okay. And then we're going to wrap it up by two things I want to ask you. What keeps you motivated as a beauty entrepreneur? What keeps you motivated on the tough days? Because we're having fun on this show, and some people may look at you and think she's young, she's got it all happening. But the truth is we all have ups and downs when we are building a business.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been plenty of days where I've sent out 50 to 70 emails and like feel like I have no sales. So there's plenty of days like that, or, days that I'm staying up till 2 a.m. because I need to get X, Y, and Z done before the next day and whatever. So no, but what keeps me motivated is the before and afters, the success stories that I've seen, my estheticians, like all of that, the ecosystem, it's even just a post about Siv. Like, it's so touching that they thought to do this, they wanted to share this, like all of that keeps me motivated. Like, I'm like, this is amazing. And being in a mindset of like, what a great problem to have, like that you have 70 people that you can email, or that, you have so much opportunity and things going on that you have to stay up late. Like that's so wonderful. So kind of trying to reframe that of like, instead of saying like, I have to do this, it's more like I get to do this. It's never something that I thought would be my life. Like this was such like a random thing that happened. I feel like, it's kind of funny, starting Siv, it was kind of like a coin toss. Like it was like heads I do it, tails I don't. Like it was not like some like grand scheme, like I'm going to go start a skincare company. It was really like, felt like a benign decision at the time. And now all of a sudden it's just this like amazing thing. So just kind of thinking about that kind of stuff. I'm like, wow, look at how far we've come.
I like that. And I can appreciate it because, it sounds like you're using social media in a really positive way, which a lot of people don't. And that's keeping you motivated and your head in the game and your heart in it.
Yeah, for sure.
Wholesale, is that just on your website, an application process?
Yep. Yeah. You just apply. It's pretty easy. Yeah, nothing too crazy. And then those get approved daily.
Awesome. And I think the conversations that happen in our mind can be some of the worst conversations we have with ourselves when we're in business, right? Like our own mind, the worst conversation. So if you could leave every esthetician listening with one mantra or reminder, what would that be?
It would be a couple things. So I've heard so much that you guys have imposter syndrome, but I just looking at your results, like, you know what you're doing. Trust yourself, trust your gut. Like, you're smarter than you think you are. You know what you're doing. And just be confident in that. And, one breakout or one purge or one mistake doesn't mean that you're a bad esthetician. Everybody's skin is different. You can't control what the skin does. And so, nothing's the end of the world. They'll come back to you and you'll say, okay, let's adjust and do this. So my overall advice, though, would be confident, trust yourself. You know what you're doing. You're meant to be there. And, you're great. So
I love marketing and brand strategy, and I think you should make the tagline on your probiotic, trust your gut. You just said it. And I'm like, oh, that's her story and her mission on her probiotic.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Tiny bacteria, big deal. That's the other one that we love.
What is it? What is it?
Tiny bacteria, big deal.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Yes. Well, Isabel, it was lovely chatting with you today. Thank you so much for all of your hard work in our industry and taking the time to share with us here on the Beauty Biz Show podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Your questions were amazing. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, we'll be in touch soon. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beauty Biz Show. I hope the episode has left you feeling inspired to build the beauty biz of your dreams. As always, we appreciate your kind reviews as it helps us attract amazing guests to be interviewed. Also, be sure to give me a follow on Instagram at Lori_BeautyBiz and SpaStar_Lux. If you'd like to know more about how we can work together, visit beautybizclub.com, where we are busy helping estheticians create outrageously abundant careers.